The night of March 18th to 19th, 2011, Swindon, Wiltshire, Southern England. The time is 3:24 a.m. A signal pings from the cell network, the last trace of 22-year-old Cian Emma O'Callaghan's phone. GPS coordinates point to Savernake Forest, just about 12 miles from town. Seconds later, the signal cuts out. No more calls, no texts, no activity at all. At that same time, Cian's boyfriend, Kevin Reap, wakes up in their apartment just outside central Swindon. His phone screen is blank. He sends a message, "Where are you?" but gets no reply. Minutes go by. He tries calling again, but no one picks up. What Kevin doesn't realize is that the walk from the nightclub where Cian had spent the evening with friends to their home was only about half a mile. She never made it that far. Outside, the city sleeps. A few headlights drift past on rain-slick streets. Surveillance cameras already show empty sidewalks, the same ones Cian had walked along just moments earlier. Her phone goes silent in the forest, while back in town, no one knows yet that a story is beginning, one that will soon grip the entire country. Within hours, that quiet worry will turn into a large-scale search effort, and the investigation that follows will change the lives of everyone it touches. Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's story, take a moment to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment below. I put a lot of time into researching and telling real true crime stories from around the world. Nothing here is made up. Your support helps the channel grow, and I truly appreciate every bit of it. Cian Emma O'Callaghan, born June 3, 1988, in the busy town of Swindon, Wiltshire, grew up in a close-knit British family. After her parents separated, she lived with her mother, Elaine Pickford, and helped care for her younger siblings, Liana, Laura, and Aidan. To them, she was more than a big sister. Aidan even called her his second mom because she often tucked him in at night and stayed with him when he was afraid of the dark. People close to Cian described her as kind-hearted, thoughtful, and calm under pressure. Always willing to help, she stayed away from drama and arguments. Her friends appreciated her for being a great listener, for her soft sense of humor, and the way she brought order and calm into the lives around her. She wasn't chasing excitement or recognition. She dreamed of the simple things, a steady job, a home of her own, and someday, a family. After finishing school, Cian realized that a traditional academic path wasn't for her. Instead, she chose a more hands-on direction. She worked in the administrative department of a local business and quickly built a reputation for being highly responsible and committed. She was always the first to arrive and the last to leave. Her desk was decorated with a small sign that read, "Keep smiling," a motto that reflected her outlook on life. Things in Cian's personal life were calm and steady. Her boyfriend, 26-year-old Kevin Reap, worked in the IT sector. The two lived together in an apartment just outside central Swindon and were planning a future together. Their relationship was solid, filled with mutual friends, family gatherings, and occasional getaways to the coast. In the final weeks before everything changed, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. It was the usual rhythm: work, catching up with friends, and the occasional weekend trip to a club. Cian didn't argue, didn't complain, and showed no signs of stress. Her life moved at a steady, predictable pace, and to those around her, it seemed safe. Swindon, like many towns in England, had a slow, familiar rhythm. Neighbors knew each other. Stores closed early. The streets were quiet after dark. It wasn't the kind of place where something truly shocking was expected to happen, and maybe that's exactly why what followed felt so hard to comprehend. A young woman, walking the streets where she'd grown up, vanished just minutes from her home. Her ordinary life, filled with work, love, and plans, ended suddenly and irreversibly. It became the start of one of the most well-known criminal cases in modern British history. On the evening of March 18, 2011, Cian O'Callaghan headed out with her friends to Suju, a nightclub in downtown Swindon. The night was uneventful: music, dancing, conversation. Surveillance footage shows the group entering the club just before midnight. At 2:52 a.m., Cian leaves, alone. She tells her friends she's walking home. The apartment she shares with Kevin is just about half a mile away. Cameras catch her walking down the street, turning a corner, and then she disappears from view. That's the last recorded footage of her alive. From that moment on, her trail goes cold. Kevin Reap, her boyfriend, tries to reach her several times by phone, but there's no answer. Assuming she stayed out a little longer with her friends, he eventually goes to sleep. By morning, though, it's clear Cian never came home. After failing to get in touch, Kevin contacts law enforcement. The missing person report is filed at 9:45 a.m. on March 19th. Officers begin reviewing the route where Cian was last seen. No one knows yet that these first few hours will be critical in one of the most high-profile cases Swindon has ever seen. Morning of March 19th, 2011. Less than 6 hours after Cian Emma O'Callaghan went missing, Wiltshire police launched their first official response. A dedicated investigation unit is quickly assembled: missing persons, officers, surveillance analysts, and forensic teams. Their mission? To trace Cian's steps from the moment she left Suju nightclub to where she was expected to arrive: home. Officers begin canvassing the businesses along High Street, collecting surveillance footage and interviewing employees. The cameras clearly show Cian leaving the club, then walking alone down the street. But she never appears on the next camera in the sequence. The distance between those two spots is short. Yet, 32 minutes later, her phone sends a signal from a location nearly 12 miles away, near Savernake Forest. That detail immediately raises red flags. There's no way Cian could have reached that location on foot in such a short amount of time. By noon, police leadership issues their first public statement. The investigation is now being led by Detective Superintendent Steve Fulcher. At a brief press conference, he urges the public to come forward with any information and emphasizes that this may involve a real active threat. At the same time, search efforts begin within several miles of the club and along the roads leading east out of Swindon. That same day, the first volunteers begin to arrive in town. Locals start printing flyers with Cian's photo, posting them at bus stops, on storefronts, and in car windows. By nightfall, several hundred concerned residents have joined the search. Within 24 hours, nearly 400 people are actively working alongside police. On March 20th, news broke of a private message sent to the press. An anonymous donor is offering a reward of £20,000 for any information that could help find Cian. The case instantly escalates. Law enforcement increases patrol presence, sets up a temporary headquarters, and launches a dedicated tip line. But behind the scenes, investigators are hitting roadblocks. The camera network captured only part of Cian's route. There are no known witnesses, no signs of a struggle, and no discarded belongings. The only lead they have is Cian's phone, and it's gone silent. The town enters a state of anxious waiting. Reporters begin filling Swindon's main square, and national TV broadcasts daily updates. Under pressure from the media, rumors begin to spread. Everything from a robbery gone wrong to theories about Cian running away. Her family and friends go public to shut those claims down. Kevin, her boyfriend, appears on camera, pleading for her safe return. Authorities work to manage the growing flow of information, but the attention is building fast. For a town like Swindon, known for its quiet and safety, this is a shock. In a matter of hours, it becomes the focus of a national investigation. And with every passing hour and no answers, the anxiety only deepens. By the end of the first 24 hours, detectives have only fragments: a possible route, a time window, and the last known phone location. Everything else is a mystery. While the public holds out hope that Xian will return home safely, investigators are beginning to realize that this may be far more complicated than just a missing persons case. A few days after Xian disappeared, the investigation made its first major breakthrough. Detectives, after reviewing dozens of hours of city surveillance footage, spotted something unusual: a dark Toyota Avensis appearing near the area where Xian was last tracked. The timestamp on the footage matched the time Xian had left the center of Swindon. The vehicle slows down, stops briefly, and then drives off toward the Eastern Highway. For investigators, this became a critical lead. Running the license plates brought them to the registered owner, 47-year-old Christopher Hallowell, a resident of Swindon. Official records listed him as a licensed taxi driver. His background was mostly clean, aside from a few minor infractions. On the surface, he appeared to be an average guy, worked nights, lived with his partner Heather Widdowson, and was raising 3 sons. Neighbors and co-workers described him as quiet, dependable, and hardworking. Nothing about him raised immediate suspicion. He had the appearance of a man with a steady life and a solid reputation as a reliable driver. Police brought Hallowell in for questioning. He claimed that on the night Xian went missing, he had worked until around 1:30 a.m., then headed home. But the footage told a different story. His car was clearly seen in the same streets where Xian was last spotted, and at the same time. When officers pointed this out, Hallowell began changing details, stumbling over his timeline, and eventually said he may have just been driving through. Despite the clear inconsistencies, there was no direct evidence linking him to a crime. No signs of a struggle. Nothing belonging to Xian was found in his car. The police had no choice but to let him go. Still, Detective Superintendent Steve Fulcher had a gut feeling that Hallowell wasn't just a bystander. The false alibi and nervous behavior raised serious red flags. The investigative team decided to move forward with covert surveillance. Hallowell was placed under 24-hour watch. Every move, every interaction, every stop was documented. His phone was tapped, and a GPS tracker was secretly installed on his car. For several days, Hallowell's routine seemed perfectly ordinary. He went to work, pumped gas, did some shopping. But that very normalcy started to concern investigators. He was being too cautious, avoiding conversation, taking unfamiliar routes, as if he sensed someone was watching. The surveillance operation continued. Detectives monitored his every action, carefully logging his routes and stops. On March 24, 2011, Hallowell left his home in his Toyota Avensis, stopped at a gas station, and purchased a container of fuel. The team stayed close. He drove toward the outskirts of Swindon, then beyond city limits, into a rural area with no surveillance cameras. His car came to a stop near a wooded area. From the trunk, he pulls out a bundle, later confirmed to be the fabric seat covers from his car. He lays them out carefully on the ground, douses them in gasoline, and sets them on fire. Officers observing from a distance capture the entire scene on video. The flames consume the material quickly, and within minutes, nothing remains but ash. For investigators, this was the turning point, an unmistakable attempt to destroy evidence. The order to detain him comes in immediately. Christopher Hallowell is arrested in the parking lot of a supermarket, shortly after returning from the trip. He doesn't resist. He claims he was just changing out the upholstery. He's brought directly to Detective Superintendent Steve Fulcher, the lead on the case. Now, standard procedure would have been to bring the suspect to the station, file the arrest paperwork, and provide access to legal counsel. But Fulcher knows they're racing against the clock. Every minute that passes could mean losing the chance to find Xian alive. He makes a controversial decision. Instead of heading to the station, Fulcher takes Hallowell out, toward the hills near Oxford. His goal is simple: get him to talk. Inside the car, a tense and measured conversation unfolds. Fulcher never threatens, never makes promises. He speaks to Hallowell's conscience. Straightforward, direct. "Where is Sheehan?" he asks. Hours go by with no response, and then Hallowell finally breaks the silence. "I'll take you," he says. Under pressure, Hallowell cracks. He agrees to lead Fulcher to the location of the young woman's body. From this moment on, Sheehan's case is no longer classified as a missing persons investigation. It becomes a case of a violent crime. Fulcher is fully aware he's just stepped outside of protocol. This wasn't a formal interview. There was no attorney present. The suspect wasn't taken to a station, but Fulcher made that call deliberately, because had they followed procedure to the letter, that confession might never have come. In the hours that follow, Fulcher processes the arrest by the book. But it's already clear, the steps he took, though they moved the case forward, would come at a personal cost that would eventually change the course of his own career. March 24th, 2011. Following Hallowell's confession, police units begin heading east of Swindon. A convoy of vehicles moves slowly down a narrow rural road leading toward Savernake Forest, a vast, remote area stretching between Marlborough and Hungerford. According to the suspect, this is where Cian O'Callaghan's body can be found. Hallowell points to a small patch of ground just off a rural road. Detective Fulcher records the coordinates and radios the location in. Within minutes, forensic experts and the investigative team arrive on site. The area is sealed off, portable lights are set up, and the work begins immediately. Every inch is carefully examined. The soil is removed layer by layer to avoid damaging any potential evidence. After several hours, just beneath the surface, they uncover a human body, partially wrapped in fabric. While formal identification is scheduled for later, no one in the investigative team has any doubts. It's her. The autopsy, conducted by the Wiltshire Forensic Pathology Unit, confirms the cause of death. There are signs of blunt force trauma to the back of the head, likely from a heavy object. In addition, several puncture wounds are found in the torso. No signs of aggressive assault are detected. Experts conclude that the attack was sudden and brief. Cian most likely lost her life not long after entering the vehicle. At the dig site, there is a heavy silence. The team works without speaking. Everyone present understands the gravity of the moment. For them, this isn't just another case, it's personal. Fulcher stands off to the side, not interfering, quietly watching as the body is removed from the earth. His earlier decision to bend protocol now feels justified. Without it, they might never have found Cian. That evening, the news reaches the media. In Swindon, a public mourning begins. People leave flowers outside Suju nightclub, where Cian was last seen alive. Candles are lit at the entrance. Handwritten notes and messages of sorrow appear along the railings. For this small, quiet town, it's a devastating blow. The story of a young woman who vanished just minutes from home ends in tragedy. Police officially confirm that the body found is Cian Emma O'Callaghan, 22 years old, a resident of Swindon. The investigation now enters a new phase. This is no longer a missing persons case. It's classified as a major crime. Christopher Hallowell is taken into custody, and Fulcher prepares to formally document the confession that became the breakthrough in the case. Savernake Forest, once just part of the scenic countryside, now becomes a symbol of loss. The place where a young woman's life ended and where one of Wiltshire's most significant investigations began. But just as the team begins processing the gravity of what they've uncovered, Hallowell speaks again. After confessing to his involvement in Cian O'Callaghan's death, he quietly tells Detective Fulcher, "There's another body." He doesn't give a name, only that it happened a long time ago. Investigators waste no time. They begin searching the nearby area. Just a few hundred yards from where Sion was found, forensic teams uncover bones and remnants of clothing. DNA testing confirms the identity. The remains belong to 20-year-old Rebecca Godden, who went missing 8 years earlier in Swindon. At the time, her disappearance raised no alarms. It was believed she had simply run away from home. Becky's story was a tragic one. In her teenage years, she struggled with addiction and had been in and out of treatment facilities. But at one point, she left rehab and never returned. In the years that followed, she was unhoused, living on the streets. Her mother, Karen Edwards, continued searching for her, but every effort came up empty. Now, police were telling her that Becky had been found. For Karen, the news was both devastating and a kind of closure. 8 years of uncertainty had come to an end. Forensic experts concluded that Becky lost her life due to aggressive actions, but because of the time that had passed, they couldn't determine an exact cause. Hallowell admitted to the crime, but couldn't remember the date or any clear details about how it happened. At this point, investigators realized they weren't dealing with an isolated incident, but potentially a series of crimes. 2 victims, years apart, both tied to one man. Police began re-examining old missing persons cases, looking for any possible links to Hallowell. For Becky's family, it was the end of a years-long nightmare. For detectives, it was a shift, from searching for one missing woman to investigating a possible repeat offender. In the fall of 2012, the trial of Christopher Hallowell began at Bristol Crown Court. He was formally charged with the crime against Sion O'Callaghan. At first, he pleaded not guilty, but months later, in a sudden reversal, he confessed. The jury accepted his admission, and on October 19, 2012, Hallowell was sentenced to life in prison, with no chance of parole for at least 25 years. But the case involving Becky Godden never made it to court. Prosecutors refused to use the confession Hallowell gave at the field, citing a breach of legal procedure. Under UK law, any statement made without an attorney present is considered inadmissible. Detective Steve Fulcher's decision to question Hallowell outside a police station without legal counsel put the entire case at risk. This sparked a national debate. Legal experts accused the police of violating the suspect's rights, but the families of the victims defended Fulcher, saying his actions were the only reason the truth came out. Fulcher himself was subjected to an internal investigation. In the end, he received a formal disciplinary warning and was forced to resign from the force. He lost his position, career, and reputation, even though his actions led to the discovery of both women's remains. The public was divided. Some believed justice should outweigh legal technicalities. Others felt that Fulcher had set a dangerous precedent by ignoring established law. Meanwhile, Hallowell, convicted for only one of the crimes, continues to serve his sentence and remains legally silent about the second. It wasn't until 2016 that law enforcement finally secured a new trial. Thanks to additional evidence, including DNA analysis and physical material recovered from the burial site, prosecutors were able to reopen the case involving Becky Godden. This time, no confession was needed. The jury reviewed the facts and returned a clear verdict: guilty. On September 19, 2016, Christopher Hallowell was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. This time, there would be no early release. He would spend the rest of his life behind bars. A case that began with the disappearance of one young woman in a quiet English town ended with 2 life sentences, and 2 very different lives changed forever: that of the offender and that of the detective who crossed a line in pursuit of truth. After the trials concluded, the lives of everyone involved went in different directions. Detective Steve Fulcher, whose actions led to the resolution of both cases, was ultimately found guilty of violating police conduct rules. His decision to question Hallowell outside a station without an attorney present was deemed a violation of the laws governing investigative procedures. As a result, Fulcher faced disciplinary action. He lost his title, his standing, and was forced to resign from the Wiltshire Police Department. For Fulcher, it marked the end of a career that had spanned more than 20 years. He had started as a patrol officer, risen through the ranks, and led complex investigations. But it was this one case, the Sion O'Callaghan case, that ultimately cost him everything. After stepping away from the force, Fulcher left the UK and started a new life in Somalia, working as a consultant for a private security firm. Ironically, it was his decision to break protocol that became the key to solving crimes that might have remained in the dark. Without that bold, albeit unlawful, move, the victims may never have been found, and the suspect might have continued harming others unnoticed. Fulcher gave up his career in the name of justice over process. The families of the victims didn't turn against him. Sion O'Callaghan's mother publicly thanked him for giving them the chance to say goodbye to her daughter. Karen Edwards, Becky Godden's mother, also defended Fulcher, saying that without him, she would never have known the truth about her daughter's fate. To them, despite the system's judgment, he remained a hero. Meanwhile, Christopher Hallowell remains behind bars, sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. His name has become a symbol of one of the darkest cases in modern English history. This case left a deep mark not just on legal procedure, but on public conscience, sparking debates about the line between what is lawful and what is right. For the town of Swindon, where it all began, the story became a symbol of loss and shaken trust, a reminder of how quickly a familiar world can fall apart. This story isn't just about crime, it's about the cost of truth. Some lost their lives, others lost careers and reputations, but because of their actions, two families finally got the answers they had been waiting for years.